Hello, I am Mudita, and welcome back to Satisfactory. Right before 1.0 launched, I put out this video that covered the new compact load balancing style I'm using in my current playthrough. It goes through smelters up to assemblers. Today, I want to go over the compact load balancing I'm going to use with manufacturers. With the Mark II Blueprint Designer, there are a lot of possibilities. So these are all the different blueprints I've made for manufacturers. And as you can see in the Blueprints tab, they're all right here. So with the 6s and 5s, I needed to make them out of 2 blueprints. So it takes 2 blueprints to get 5, 2 blueprints to get 6. I wish they would have all fit in one, but unfortunately these are pretty big machines. So I think we can go ahead and just skip the 2. The only key to these ones is how close you can put the splitters. So that's as close as I could get so that we can still connect this belt right here. Any closer and the belt won't fit. And here I have a 3 manufacturer setup. I decided to make a 6 manufacturer setup if I'm going to end up having to scale quite a few of these. And with that one it's a bit more compact, but every once in a while I'm sure I'll just need 3 manufacturers, and so let me show you how to make this real quick. I'm going to take my 2 manufacturer blueprint and we're going to line this up as close as we can to the edge. And you can actually nudge it one farther even though the bounding box looks like it's going past it. I don't really know why, but none of it actually is going past it. So bring that right to the edge. And now I need my second floor. In my factory, the way I've designed this is it's the height of 4 foundations, and then I just use 1 meter. Actually, don't think I need this very last one. And now I just need some floor holes. So this should go right here because splitters and mergers are 4 meters or half a foundation. So that should be about as close unless I wanted to clip it in farther. And now I can just bring these down. And we can come up here. And the way I did it is I just made 2 different copies so that if I was going to use, say, 2 of these, I could make it more symmetrical. Just, you certainly don't have to. You could pick one side or the other, or either of the middle ones, but that's basically what I did. So I put it either here, and then for the other one I set it on the other side so it lined up with the right input. And then for the first one, plug that straight in, and then the rest of them all go straight out to the side. And we can just, well, let's go ahead and use straight mode. And there you go. I just saved that one as 3 manufacturers A. And then I would just delete this manufacturer, these lifts, scoot it over to the side, and save it as 3 manufacturers B. Alright, so let's move on to the 4 manufacturer blueprints. And this has an A and a B, and they're mirrored so that the inputs are facing each other. So I can easily grab some splitters, stack up 4, and I can combine the 2. So now I actually have 8 manufacturers all load balanced together. So let me show you how to make these. Again, I'm going to start with my 2 manufacturer blueprint. Because I need to add 1 more stack of splitters in front, I'm going to move it out 1, 2, 3, 4. But that would mean that there's no space in between the 2 splitters. So I'm going to go 1 more meter. So 5 meters out from the edge, and I'm going to go and lock that in place. Alright, so with that one, we're going to put the splitter on the very edge. But this right here, instead of facing straight out, I'm going to either do this side or this side. And that's really the difference between the 2 blueprints. So we'll just do this one first. And we just need to add this second floor. And for the top floor, just because I love my symmetry, we're going to line these up with the bottom one. And go ahead and place that down. With the initial inputs all facing this way, we're going to use this side to bring up the rest of the items. So we'll go ahead and use our floor hole, and then we'll just place 1 there, and the next 3 behind it. And there we go. 4 manufacturers load balanced. I can pet him from all the way over here. For the outputs, what I'm going to do is just flip this merger around. So we'll just have it face that way. Bring those in. Slap a floor hole right here. And now this one just plugs into the back of that merger. And as you can imagine, doing the mirrored setup is really easy. You just have the inputs facing the other way, and then all these floor holes are on the other side. So those ones were honestly all really easy to do and put together. This one definitely took me the longest to come up with. So this ridiculous mess right here is my 5-way split for manufacturers. Ooh boy. Let's get into it. Quick refresher, and in case anybody's new here and hasn't seen one, this is the way I'm going to do a 5-way split. So it starts with a merger, and then it goes into a splitter. That splitter is going to go into 2 more splitters. So we'll put one here, and one there. So obviously we go merger to this splitter. This splitter is then going to split it in half. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But to make sure that these are 5 equal parts, we need to use this 6th one. So what we do is we loop that back into the initial merger. And by doing that, we ensure that all 5 of the actual outputs are completely even and load balanced. So now the trick is doing this with 4 inputs. Yeah, it got a little interesting. So to try to differentiate some things, there's only going to be one merger, so I'll just point that out. The middle splitter I'll paint gold, and then the other 2 will do copper and chrome. Chrome really doesn't stand out very well, so we'll do purple. Alright, let's get to it. How I got to this was a whole lot of trial and error, getting the spacing and everything about as compact as I felt comfortable with. So for the manufacturers down here, we're going to go 10 meters basically from the edge, because one foundation's 8 and then 2 more. This middle spot is where I'm going to do all of this right there. So we're going to put that there, and then let's go up to the 2nd floor. And then here on the top, we can just go ahead and do the same thing. But I am going to use both spaces. So both of these, they're 1 meter in from the edge. And then that way there will be a 2 meter gap in between all of them. Alright, and because this does need 2 blueprints, I'm just going to go ahead and do both of them kind of at the same time, because I found that was just the easier way to do it. And because these are only 2.5 foundations, well, actually a little bit less, but we're just going to switch this to a half foundation. Okay, so there is basically the outline. We've got all the machines in place. The easy part is done. So let me show you how this is going to work. The top 3 are going to be this group here. The bottom is going to be this, basically this one right here. So let's go ahead and group these 3 together. So with this, I'm going to place it right here and then go 2. And delete all of the extra ones. And then for these, I'm just going to go from the splitter to the machine. And this isn't as tight as it could be, and that's okay because it's going to be a bit more tight downstairs. Alright, and since I lined the splitters up right on the edge of the foundation, that's where these need to go. So that one's the short one. And there we go. Delete all these and make these connections. And we just do the same thing for the other side. So that one's going to be just the belt. This will be the short one. 2, 3. And the unfortunate thing is I will have to manually connect the 2 blueprints with all of these belts for both of these. But that's okay. This whole thing still saves me a ton of time. Alright, so those are going to be fed from floor holes right here. And just to get these out of the way, I'm just going to go ahead and build these right on the ceiling. Alright, that's all put together. So let's get to the interesting part. Because all of this takes up so much space, I decided to use this space right here to kind of deal with it all. I want to be able to bring in the initial amounts on the floor level because I just think that's the easiest way to deal with it. The difference in height between the stackables is 2 meters, so that's kind of like the level of each conveyor belt. So if I leave that gap right there empty, I can bring the lifts in. So this is kind of how I figured out the spacing. I do want to get these lined up with those ones right there, so it'll give me the most amount of space. So I believe I need to go back 3 meters, which should be right there. And I think that is, yeah, okay, that's the smallest amount. I can't go any farther out because this output is going to be the one that connects that manufacturer right there. So that's as close as I can get to there. Oh, and I forgot to label these. Okay, so these ones right here, these ones are the purple. That's the purple splitter. So these right here. And these right here, this is the copper splitter. So that's that one right there. So now I need to do the Caterium one is the one right before. And that's going to go right in front of these. And here is the Caterium splitter. So that splitter is going to go right into here. And with these, we're just going to set these straight. And they are offset, so you end up getting this, which isn't my favorite thing. There's probably a way around it that I could have done this a little bit different. Maybe done these just straight because they are lined up and then loop that one all the way around. That honestly might not be a bad idea. And I may change it in the future. Or you can just leave it like this. It is 2 90-degree turns just right next to each other. But it does look a little bit funny, but it's also in a spot that is kind of hard to see. But there's no clipping, so that's what's important to me. And then the last part is the merger. So the merger is just going to go right behind these. So the merger goes right into that splitter. And now let me get rid of all of this temporary foundation. And we can just go ahead and set this right there. With the conveyor pole there, I should be able to connect this, and then the rest of them can just go straight down. And this is where the initial amount is going to get plugged into. 2 last things to do. So I need some conveyor poles. So this one is going to start at that level. This one starts 2, 3, and 4, since all of these started 2 meters up. And we can connect these. Alright, and the last part is this belt right here. And that comes out of the copper splitter, which is this piece right here. So it's this last one. It's going to get plugged into there. And this right here is where the 5x5 is just 1 meter too short. I could move it over, but then it just wouldn't be as symmetrical, because then it would be just right next to the next one. And I could try to remember to connect this, just like I have to connect all of the other belts. I'm still going to have to connect both of these manufacturers, but I'd really just rather not. So let's just do Old Faithful with some temporary foundations. And instead of doing a lift right on the edge, because the lifts, just like the belt, needs a clearance of 3 meters, which is just too far. So if we do 1, 2, 3, we'll just clip it slightly into the merger and the splitter. So we'll just clip it 1 meter in. And snap to that first. Do the same thing on this side. They are quite a bit trickier to grab, but next thing is you get rid of all this. From underneath, it's a little bit easier, and with the filter tool, that's a lot easier. Alright, so now with those there, I can connect those two. Well, straight mode doesn't like that, but default does. And there we go. So that way I don't have to remember to connect that when I have to connect everything else. And for the outputs, I'm just going to put the merger right in line at the very bottom. Actually, that might not be lined up. Is it lined up? Ah, yeah. So we'll put that right there. So if that's right there, we need a little bit more space so we can get a lift in here. And that's close to the dead line. Let's see if we can get this to work. So if we put that, we'll clip it into this one. So it's a little bit clipped into this merger and just flush with this one. You could probably split the difference if you wanted to, because we can merge by half. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Let's go with that one. Split the difference. There we go. So I do need to connect basically the outputs and the inputs for the extra piece. But being able to plop down 5 completely load balanced manufacturers, it's going to save me so much time. Because then I'll be able to scale that easily. Because there's plenty of times when I'm either going to place 10 or 20 manufacturers for something. It just ends up being one of those amounts that I use quite a bit. Let me just run through the 6 blueprint, which I think I'm actually going to change a little bit now that I'm looking at it. Instead of the splitters having the output facing this way, I want them to face inward. Since I have 2 copies, that way I could flip these around and I could join 2 6s really easily. Now if I need 3, I probably actually want them to be this way. So I might just leave it like this, because when I load up a blueprint and I'm going to change the recipes, I can just flip these to the side. It really doesn't take too long to redo those connections real quickly. But this is an A and a B, so this is essentially the end piece to my 5 blueprint, where it's just the 2 manufacturers on top of each other with just the lifts built in, and then you have to manually connect all of these belts. And then for the blueprint that has the 4 manufacturers, you basically just have to push it back an extra 5 meters for the manufacturers so that you can fit the extra splitter in front and still have that 1 meter gap in case I need to come in here and, change these belts to whatever speed. It's just a lot easier this way. And then that combines the top half and the bottom half. And with all of these, I have the power built in already. I just kind of bring the power down, and then that way I can connect all of these up really easily in a straight line. And then just like the inputs, I just need to remember to connect the outputs, and then they're all combined. So the top floor comes down and they both come up to a second merger, and then the mergers are facing each other. So these are all things that I would probably switch around depending on where I want things to go in each individual factory. That's going to do it for this one. Hopefully this has inspired you to make some more blueprints of your own. These are all available for free on my Google Drive if you'd like to download and edit these to fit your factories. Blenders will most likely be the next machine I need blueprints for, so look forward to that. And thanks for watching.